welcome back to Brashonomics. We were discussing a little bit of the debate from last night and how that correlates to hiring a professional. Matt Royal joins us. Now, Matthew has senior level experience in developing and executing real estate strategies nationally and internationally. Believe it or not, he's executed transactions in more than 38 states and 13 countries. You probably have more foreign policy experience than either of the two.
Well, at least in negotiating transactions, not so much foreign policy.
Yeah, well, like the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, that was just a couple of beads and a blanket and some shells, and they left. Yeah,
yeah. So Matt, when you start looking at the hiring of a politician, I call it hiring, voting, whatever, or you hire a professional, a real estate agent. You had made a really good point that you're hiring for future results.
Correct. You're investing your beliefs, your future, in the results that you believe somebody else can obtain for you, whether it's a politician, whether it's a broker, whether it's an attorney. That's what you're hoping to get, and obviously you want to get the biggest value for the lowest investment. However, and we've talked about this on other shows previously, which is when you hire a professional, they're not always readily available. They don't always work on your timetable. What you have to do is start early, vet and select your professional, and then set the expectations early on for what results you expect to obtain, whether that's from a legal action, a real estate transaction, or, in our current environment, a political election.
Do you think is that something that a professional could help you understand maybe what type of expectations you should have? Because I know for a lot of people going in, and this comes from the mortgage side of things, somebody doesn't necessarily even know the questions to ask, or somebody doesn't really know what should or shouldn't I expect.
Correct.
How do you determine that?
It's just like anything. Not too many people know about cars, truly about cars, but when they go in, they do their due diligence, they do some research you can find on the web, and then they ask questions. And what people generally end up, in my experiences, professionals who know what they're doing can spot somebody who doesn't know what they're doing instantaneously. It's within the first 10 or 15 seconds of a conversation, a professional knows if this guy knows what he's talking about or not. So the best,
or if they're using buzzwords off of Wikipedia.
Yeah. If or they're trying to play the part.
Right.
And that's where the buyer or the client's ego needs to be put in check and pulled back and just say, look, you're the professional. I'm paying you good money, or you're receiving a good amount of money from the commission. So I'm going to tell you as the client what my fears are, what my objectives are, what my goals are, and I'm expecting you as the professional to pilot us through this transaction, through this event, so that this is the outcome we wish to obtain. And tell me as we go along, and tell me as we start and as we're proceeding through this venture, what I need to know and what I need to do to advise you as to what I really want to happen. Because things change in the middle of a transaction, whatever it is. What do they call it? The fog of war now, as information's coming back in. But you need to have a good rapport with that person, that entity, or that individual that you're working with, to get that rapport back and forth so that as conditions change, you feel confident, ask the right questions, and can respond.
You mentioned rapport, and really to build rapport, to build trust, you have to be telling the truth. Are there a lot of people in the commercial real estate industry as politicians who are giving more misleading information in order to I guess get the deal?
It's all individual, and the word I hate to use the most is it depends, because everything is a flow chart. If this, then that. If that, then this. And you can keep going down the matrix to get to a conclusion. In the real estate, anytime you're in an industry where the people who are working for you are on 100% commission, and this is just my personal view, anybody on 100% commission really, how do you say that?
Well, I'd say that they may be motivated by things that are different, because closing the deal,
that's when they get paid.
Right.
And so if you feel uncomfortable at any time during a transaction to where you feel like the agent is pushing you more where you don't want to go or take a lower value or whatnot, then if you don't feel comfortable with it, then stop and ask questions. Sometimes the agent is right. So most of the time, the agent probably is right by saying, "Hey, this is what the market's doing." But when you're in battle, it's not the time to have that explained to you. Setting the expectations up front. When we said before, you're obtaining a professional to deliver future values, and if that professional told you the future values are higher than what you're seeing in the middle of the process, there was a disconnect. So, and I think you talked earlier, too, about feeling comfortable, trusting, having a rapport with whoever is representing you. You need to have that trust because things do change. Transactions change. Maybe the lender changed their mind, and you have to have some fast feet in the middle of that process. But for the most part, you are trusting that professional. So that's why if you do your work ahead of time, you build that rapport, you sit down with them, explain them what you want to have as an outcome, odds are you're going to get a lot closer to it than if you just open up and just let them take over.
So let's talk about commercial real estate specifically then, because if somebody wants to maybe buy or rent a building and they're working with you, what are some of the outcomes that you hear? I mean, what is something that somebody may want? I mean, somebody might say, I want a place to house my worker, my workforce, or what are typical outcomes?
Again, preparing to go in for it, because obviously you're looking to locate the individual who can bring you the highest, best value or best use or best application for your lease, your purchase, or your divestiture. So it's like you say, when you have a problem and you're finding someone to have a solution, if somebody walks in and says, "I am the answer to your problem. I will resolve everything," and we'll go to the Unicorn Ranch and there'll be rainbows and everything at the end of this, you kind of have to be a little suspect. So be practical, pragmatic. If someone comes in and says, "Hey, I'm going to get you 22%," if it's too good to be true, odds are, it's not. So when you're looking for the outcome, you have to be realistic. And if you find someone who says, "Okay, we're going to secure this lease for you, and by cracky, we're going to get you 50% of market on this," and you go, "Wow!"
Because I know a guy.
I know a guy, yeah. Or I have an inside loop with the landlord or whatever. You have to say, "Wow, I am so fortunate I found you." But then you have to ask, well, why is that possible? And why would I expect, if the landlord's listing at $34, why would I expect to get it for $16? And then they'll say, well, and then you have to judge the response. But there could be a reasonable explanation for that because it could be a sublease. And the sublease is now, we're not dealing with the landlord, we're dealing with the tenant who's not looking to profit from it, but they're looking to offset a loss. Oh, well, that makes sense as to why I would get that for 50% of market versus the high market rate. That makes sense. So ask questions, take part, be collaborative, take the guy's time because he's working for you. Now, like we said, I think 2 shows ago, people who are professionals and who are really good at what they do, they don't go out looking for work. They can't instantly be there at the same time. So when you do have your professional, when you do have that individual on the line or on the hook there, don't waste their time. Sit down and ask questions. I mean, line them out. Be prepared because that's what you want that person to do when they're working for you. You don't want them winging it, so don't go in and show them that you're winging it.
Yeah, but I think one of the key things you're saying is being effective with their time. Is allow the professional maybe to dictate what that time is. If you have an hour, here's what we need to nail down, and maybe you have 1 or 2 questions, but and you can bring your own agenda.
Correct. Yeah.
But there's an element of making sure you can be efficient and knowing what step A, B, and C are, and maybe what step you're actually in, so that you're not talking about step F when you're on step B and
correct.
Just revisiting the situation.
And that's the optimal way to approach it, but there's also the other way to approach it, which is you find somebody you like, you think they're smart, and you just say, "We're here at point A, I want to be at point B. Get me there. Just make it happen."
You pilot the plane, I'll sit in first class, baby.
Yeah.
You got it. Hey, Matt, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. Matthew Royal from Royal Commercial Corporation. We'll be right back with all of our in-studio guests and Heather Moore. You're listening to Brushonomics.